The opening passage introduces a provocative idea that a simple gesture, touching the crook of the elbow or lightly pressing the hollow beneath the armpit, might awaken an innate healing mechanism in the human body. At first glance, the claim sounds mystical or even implausible, but the narrative positions it within a long lineage of ancient knowledge. This framing invites the audience to suspend skepticism and consider the body not merely as flesh and bone, but as an energetic microcosm. By doing so, the text creates a bridge between intuitive bodily awareness and the intellectual curiosity of modern listeners who seek alternative ways of understanding health. The rhetorical strategy relies on contrast. The author acknowledges that the idea seems mysterious, then immediately grounds it in history by referencing ancient civilizations. The Egyptians are said to have called these points gates of wisdom, while the Chinese later conceptualized them as acupoints. By naming specific traditions, the passage gains credibility through cultural authority. Even if one doubts the literal truth of the claim, the fact that different civilizations independently described similar concepts suggests there is at least a symbolic resonance worth exploring. This historical anchoring is essential, because without it, the idea of healing through tapping would risk being dismissed as New Age fantasy. The text then emphasizes the central image of 8 energy portals. This metaphor is both simple and powerful. Rather than presenting an overwhelming map of hundreds of acupuncture points, the author reduces the system to 4 symmetrical pairs located at major joints: armpits, elbows, groins, and knees. This condensation serves 2 purposes. First, it makes the practice accessible. Viewers or readers are more likely to remember 8 key locations than to memorize a complex meridian chart. Second, the choice of joints is intuitive. People instinctively know that joints are places where movement slows, where tension builds, and where circulation can become restricted. Linking these areas to energy stagnation feels natural, even to those without prior exposure to Chinese medicine or Egyptian mysticism. The narrative frames blockage and release in very tangible terms. When these portals are obstructed, one feels pain, fatigue, and anxiety. When they are cleared, the entire system resets, almost like rebooting a computer. This metaphor is designed for a modern audience accustomed to technology. Just as a frozen device can be revived with a restart, so too can the body regain harmony by activating its hidden switches. The persuasive force here lies not in technical explanation, but in analogy. By speaking the language of everyday experience, the text makes esoteric ideas digestible. Another analytical point concerns the act of tapping. Unlike invasive procedures such as acupuncture needles or complex rituals requiring specialized tools, tapping is universally accessible. Anyone can do it without training, risk, or expense. The simplicity of the method removes barriers to entry, which is why such practices gain popularity in wellness culture. The promise is not only empowerment, you can heal yourself with your own hands, but also democratization of ancient wisdom. The ritual does not belong to priests, shamans, or doctors alone. It belongs to everyone. The emphasis on symmetry, 4 pairs mirrored on both sides of the body, also reinforces the theme of balance. Ancient systems of medicine often placed balance at the center. Yin and yang in Chinese thought, harmony of humors in Greek tradition, or mayat in Egyptian cosmology. By evoking symmetry, the passage resonates with this archetypal principle. The body is not just a random collection of organs, but a structured universe where balance determines vitality. From a critical perspective, one might question the scientific validity of the claims. Modern medicine does not recognize energy portals in the literal sense, and conditions such as anxiety or digestive issues are explained through biochemical pathways rather than blocked chi. Yet it is important to analyze the psychological and somatic plausibility. Touching and tapping certain body areas can indeed activate nerve endings, influence circulation, and stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. For example, gently tapping near the chest or armpit region may affect vagus nerve pathways, which play a role in regulating heart rate and calming stress. Similarly, rhythmic tapping can have a meditative effect, helping to shift attention away from anxious thoughts. While the explanation in terms of energy rivers may not align with biomedical models, the practical effects could still be real through neurological and psychological mechanisms. Moreover, the framing of the body as a miniature universe serves more than poetic function. It reorients the way people relate to themselves. If one sees the body as a machine, the natural response to illness is to replace or repair parts with external intervention. If one sees the body as a garden, however, the approach shifts to nurturing, tending, and allowing natural processes of renewal. This shift in metaphor, from machine to ecosystem, has profound implications for health behavior. It encourages preventive care, mindfulness, and self-observation. The opening section, therefore, accomplishes several goals simultaneously. It sparks curiosity by proposing a hidden capacity. It legitimizes the idea by situating it within Egyptian and Chinese traditions. It simplifies complexity into 8 memorable points. It provides a method, tapping, that is safe, free, and immediate. And it reframes the body not as a passive machine, but as a dynamic field of energy awaiting conscious interaction. Whether one interprets these claims literally, symbolically, or scientifically, the narrative succeeds in opening a door, inviting the audience to continue the journey into deeper exploration of self-healing. Once the idea of hidden portals in the body has been introduced, the metaphor broadens to reveal a deeper way of imagining human health. The body is not presented as a mechanical object made of interchangeable parts, but as a living ecosystem, a garden that flourishes only when its elements remain in balance. In this imagery, blood functions as fertile soil, vital energy as flowing water, and consciousness as sunlight. Each element is indispensable, and the absence of any one of them leads to decline. The garden metaphor is not chosen for beauty alone. It serves to simplify a complex interaction of physiology, psychology, and energy into a picture that can be understood intuitively. Just as a gardener tends to irrigation channels to prevent drought or flooding, so must one tend to the circulation of energy to avoid stagnation. The places most prone to stagnation are the joints. This observation resonates across both intuitive understanding and traditional systems of medicine. Joints are sites of transition, where direction shifts and where movement can slow. Biomedicine recognizes them as vulnerable to inflammation and reduced circulation, while energy-based traditions describe them as swamps, where qi becomes heavy and sluggish. The swamp metaphor is precise. It suggests stillness, weight, and decay, reflecting the human experience of stiffness, fatigue, or mental dullness when energy fails to move freely. The proposed method of restoration is striking in its simplicity, rhythmic tapping. By framing the action as cleansing, the practice becomes immediately approachable. The vibration of tapping is likened to raindrops falling onto a pond, disturbing sediment and restoring clarity to the water. What might otherwise be dismissed as a trivial gesture is reframed as a symbolic and physical act of renewal. In this way, tapping becomes more than mechanical movement. It becomes ritualized, charged with imagery, and therefore more effective in shifting perception and sensation. The outcomes are not distant promises but immediate experiences. Within minutes, practitioners describe feeling lighter in the body and clearer in the mind. Modern science can provide a parallel explanation. Rhythmic movement paired with mindful focus activates the parasympathetic nervous system, slowing the heart rate, deepening breath, and relaxing muscular tension. By presenting these results in simple, accessible language, the narrative unites mystical interpretation with tangible evidence. The reassurance is clear. This is not abstract philosophy, but something that can be felt in the moment. The universality of the principle becomes evident when parallels across civilizations are considered. Egyptians spoke of the fire of the heart, Chinese physicians described internal fire, and Indian yogis spoke of prana. Though the names differ, the underlying concept is the same. Health arises from unobstructed flow, while illness emerges when movement is blocked. By invoking multiple traditions, the teaching demonstrates that this insight is not confined to one culture, but belongs to humanity as a whole. The convergence itself lends weight to the practice, suggesting that wisdom echoed across time, and geography carries enduring truth. Language, then, is secondary to practice. One may call it chi, prana, or life force, or translate it simply as stress and circulation. The terminology changes, but the principle remains. Blocked flow breeds imbalance, while restored flow brings harmony. This flexibility allows people of different backgrounds to connect with the practice. A Westerner might interpret tapping as relieving tension, while a yogi may see it as awakening prana, and a Christian mystic may imagine divine breath. In each case, the essence is the same, and dogma is avoided by focusing on effect rather than label. The teaching also gains persuasive power by shifting scale. Instead of focusing narrowly on the specific 8 portals, it expands to the general truth that flow itself is foundational to life. By framing tapping as the gardener's act of opening irrigation channels or the engineer's act of clearing a dam, the practice acquires gravitas. It is no longer a trivial movement, but a key to restoring the rivers of the body. Cleansing as a theme resonates deeply across cultures. Humanity has always ritualized washing, fasting, and purification as acts of renewal. Here, tapping is framed as internal hygiene, a way to wash away stress, stagnation, and toxins without water or tools. The suggestion that blocked burdens can be loosened with one's own hands empowers the practitioner. It transforms helplessness into action, demonstrating that within minutes one can intervene in their own state of being. Skeptics may argue that these metaphors risk oversimplification. Chi is not literally water, and inflammation is not literally a swamp. Yet metaphor is precisely what allows unseen processes to be grasped. A biochemical explanation may alienate, but the language of gardens and rivers resonates universally. Metaphors make the invisible tangible, providing mental handles for what otherwise remains abstract. The continuity of the teaching lies in this layering of imagery. Gates introduced earlier are now joined with rivers. Switches and flows combine to create a single picture. The body emerges as a living landscape, with doors that open and waterways that must be kept clear. The role of the practitioner is simple yet profound: to maintain this landscape, to open the gates and to let the streams run free. In this way, the discussion deepens the argument with natural imagery, cultural parallels, and practical techniques that together reveal the universality of flow. What begins as a few taps of the hand becomes a symbolic act of tending the self, as one would tend a garden. The conclusion is subtle yet powerful. Health is not a gift from outside, but the restoration of what already exists within, waiting only to be set free. When the discussion shifts to the first of the body's hidden gateways, attention is drawn to an unlikely place: the armpits. Though often overlooked in daily life, these hollows mark the crossing of vital pathways connected to both heart and lungs. The significance becomes clear when one observes the effect of stress on posture. Shoulders rise, the chest caves inward, and the armpits close. Breathing becomes shallow, the heartbeat accelerates, and the nervous system tips toward alarm. What seems like a minor shift in body language reveals itself as a trigger for systemic imbalance. The technique offered to counter this is deceptively simple. By cupping one hand and gently tapping the opposite armpit in rhythmic succession, vibrations travel into the chest cavity. The sound produced is soft, but its effect is subtle resonance, not brute force. Switching sides balances the practice, and deep breathing amplifies the impact. With each strike, practitioners are encouraged to imagine the rib cage opening like a door, welcoming new air and dispersing constriction. Numbers matter here. The repetition of 36 to 81 taps is not an arbitrary prescription, but one tied to the symbolism of 9, a number associated in many traditions with cycles of completion and transformation. Counting becomes a meditative anchor, holding attention steady as the body unwinds. The experiences reported are immediate and tangible. Pulse slows, breath deepens, and mental agitation subsides. The explanation offered avoids magical claims, instead pointing to nervous system dynamics. Gentle impact in this region likely stimulates parasympathetic activity through nerve networks, such as the vagus. As the parasympathetic branch asserts dominance, the body transitions from a defensive stance to a state of calm repair. In this way, a practice rooted in metaphor aligns neatly with scientific understanding. The two languages, energetic and neurological, describe the same shift from tension to relaxation. What makes this practice compelling is its accessibility. It requires no tools, training, or esoteric preparation. Anyone can attempt it within moments. Yet this simplicity conceals depth. The chest has always been symbolic ground. The heart has long been seen as the dwelling place of courage and emotion, while the breath has been revered as the bridge between body and spirit. In Egyptian ritual, the heart determined one's fate in the afterlife. In yogic practice, breath discipline was the gateway to mastery. In Abrahamic traditions, breath symbolized divine life. By placing the first exercise at the nexus of heart and lungs, the teaching anchors itself in universals that transcend culture and time. Equally important is the transformation of perception the practice encourages. The armpit is rarely thought of with reverence. It is more often associated with discomfort, odor, or embarrassment. To reimagine it as an energetic interchange is to reclaim hidden sanctity in the body's most ordinary spaces. This shift is not trivial. It trains the mind to seek the extraordinary within the everyday, a principle echoed across spiritual traditions. To bow one's head, to wash one's hands, to tap beneath one's arm. These simple gestures take on sacred weight when infused with intention. Balance is another underlying theme. The instruction to treat both sides emphasizes symmetry, a reminder that health is not the privilege of one organ or limb, but the harmonious cooperation of pairs and systems. Each tap becomes not only a stimulus to tissue, but a symbolic restoration of equilibrium. By practicing regularly, the body learns a new rhythm of openness, breaking the cycle of habitual contraction that stress ingrains. The short-term effect may be a calmer breath. The long-term benefit is the cultivation of resilience, the ability to return to balance more easily each time stress arises. Skeptics may ask whether such practices provide more than momentary relief. Yet the logic parallels that of daily hygiene. Just as brushing teeth does not prevent all dental problems but sustains health through constant care, so too does tapping act as maintenance for the energetic and nervous systems. It is not a cure-all but a discipline. The real power lies in repetition. Each session builds upon the last until the practice becomes second nature, a reflexive way of resetting one's state. In broader perspective, this initial exercise demonstrates the overall philosophy of self-healing, that the body is not a passive recipient of external interventions, but an active participant with inherent capacity to regulate itself. By discovering simple methods of stimulation that unlock this potential, individuals reclaim authority over their well-being. The armpits, unlikely as they may seem, thus become doorways to autonomy. The act of tapping is not only mechanical, but symbolic, an affirmation that healing resides within reach. Literally at one's sides, seen this way, the body transforms from a silent burden into a responsive partner. Each vibration communicates a message: relax, release, restore. With every gentle strike, the rhythm of tension gives way to the rhythm of life. Attention gradually shifts from the chest to another overlooked area, the inner crease of the elbows. At first, it seems improbable that such a small and unremarkable fold of skin could hold influence over both digestion and mental calm. Yet when mapped in the language of energy, the hollow at the elbow is more than a joint. It becomes a crossroads, transfer station connecting vital meridians associated with the small intestine, large intestine, and even the pericardium, the protective sheath surrounding the heart. In this frame, the elbow is not simply a hinge that bends the arm, but a gate where emotional and digestive forces intersect. The connection between mental tension and digestive unrest is well known. Even in conventional medicine, stress hormones interfere with gut motility, acid production, and nutrient absorption. Conversely, gastrointestinal discomfort feeds back into the nervous system, aggravating anxiety and restlessness. The old saying about having a gut feeling carries literal weight. The body's second brain, the enteric nervous system, communicates with the central nervous system through constant signaling. The teaching highlights this bidirectional loop, suggesting that by stimulating the elbow crease, one can soothe both the mind and the stomach in unison. The method again involves tapping, executed with cupped hands in steady rhythm. The prescribed numbers, 36 to 81, repeat the motif of sacred multiples, embedding the practice in ritual structure. But the true key lies not in mathematics, but in consistency. Each tap serves as a gentle percussion instrument, coaxing stagnant energy to move along the meridians. The text describes this as calming the fire in the heart, while simultaneously clearing blockages in the digestive tract. The imagery invites practitioners to envision their abdomen warming like a hearth, no longer smoldering with indigestion, but glowing with steady flame. This visualization deepens the effect, uniting physical sensation with mental imagery. Experiences reported are striking. Some feel more relaxed before sleep, drifting into deeper rest. Others note relief from bloating, gas, or reflux. A peculiar but fascinating phenomenon accompanies the practice: the appearance of faint red or purplish spots on the skin. Far from a cause for alarm, this is framed as a positive sign called release of stasis. According to traditional interpretation, the discoloration represents old blood and stagnant energy surfacing for elimination. From a biomedical lens, it may relate to increased circulation, superficial capillary dilation, or mild irritation of the skin. Yet regardless of explanation, the visibility of change gives the practitioner evidence that something is happening. The body is responding. The stagnation is no longer hidden beneath the surface. This interplay between subjective relief and visible sign strengthens the practice's credibility. People do not merely imagine feeling lighter. They can sometimes see physical proof etched temporarily on their skin. Over time, as blockages clear, the marks fade more quickly, reinforcing the idea of progress. The body, it seems, keeps a record of imbalance, and tapping becomes the eraser. The elbow as a symbolic location deserves attention as well. The fold is both a point of flexion and exposure. It is soft, vulnerable, yet also integral to strength and action. When we extend the arm in greeting or in labor, the elbow is engaged. To target this region is to acknowledge the inseparable link between vulnerability and power. Just as digestion transforms food into fuel and thought into clarity, the elbow becomes a mediator of inner and outer work. Neurologically, gentle percussion of this area may stimulate nerve pathways that pass near the crease, influencing sensory input to the brain and potentially activating relaxation responses. The act of rhythmic tapping itself, combined with mindful breathing, works as a form of bilateral stimulation, a technique known in modern psychology to reduce anxiety and integrate traumatic memory. Thus, once again, the ancient metaphor and modern science converge, each offering a complementary explanation for the same observed benefits. There is also the ritualistic dimension of repetition. When practiced daily, the body begins to anticipate relief as soon as tapping begins. Conditioned responses form, and within seconds of starting, relaxation flows. What initially required deliberate effort gradually becomes an automatic reset. This conditioning is powerful. The mind learns that it possesses within its own limbs a switch to turn agitation into calm. That realization itself reduces helplessness and restores a sense of agency. Seen within the broader continuum, this stage of the practice expands the scope of self-healing. The chest portals opened pathways of breath and circulation. The elbow portals add digestion and emotional regulation to the equation. Together they form a holistic sequence: heart, lungs, stomach, mind, all harmonized through simple rhythmic contact. The individual who taps is not passively receiving healing, but actively cultivating it. Like a musician drawing tone from a drum or a gardener channeling water to nourish dry soil, the importance of visualization should not be overlooked. Imagining warmth in the belly, picturing the glow of an internal hearth shapes bodily response. Modern neuroscience affirms that mental imagery activates many of the same neural circuits as actual physical experience. By pairing touch with imagination, practitioners amplify the effect. The elbow crease becomes a portal not only in anatomical maps but in consciousness, where thought and body converge to reshape experience. In the end, what makes this practice profound is not its complexity, but its simplicity. The elbow, often ignored unless injured, becomes a reminder that healing potential resides in places we rarely consider. A few dozen gentle taps can release both digestive burden and mental weight. The lesson is clear. Profound change does not always require external tools or elaborate rituals. Sometimes it emerges from the soft rhythm of a hand against one's own skin, steady as breath, patient as fire, transforming discomfort into balance. The practice then descends further into the body, reaching the groin, often described as the battery of life. This region is home to major clusters of lymph nodes, reproductive organs, and the energetic seat of the kidneys, which in Eastern traditions are considered far more than blood filters. They are imagined as reservoirs of vital essence, the inheritance received at birth that determines resilience, fertility, and longevity. When this reservoir is low, fatigue lingers, the lower back weakens, desire diminishes, and aging accelerates. The groin thus becomes more than an anatomical junction. It is the command center for vitality itself. The technique for awakening this area is as direct as it is symbolic. By cupping both hands and tapping rhythmically on the folds where legs meet torso, one stimulates a surge of circulation and energy release. The instruction to repeat 36 to 81 taps, already familiar from earlier exercises, anchors the act in ritual continuity. What distinguishes this site is the imagery paired with it. Practitioners are urged to imagine opening a faucet, allowing fresh energy to flow upward, like cool water irrigating dry fields. In this metaphor, the groin is both the well and the valve. Once unblocked, vitality rises, revitalizing every organ it touches. The physiological dimension of this exercise is not hard to appreciate. The groin contains one of the body's densest concentrations of lymph nodes, which serve as filters for toxins, cellular waste, and pathogens. Prolonged sitting, tight clothing, or inactivity can compress this area, slowing lymph flow and circulation. Gentle rhythmic tapping acts like a manual pump, restoring movement through vessels and reducing congestion. Many report that after a session swelling subsides, legs feel lighter, and even cellulite diminishes. Beyond appearance, this is a tangible sign that the detoxification system is functioning more efficiently. The practice also supports the pancreas and spleen, organs crucial to sugar metabolism. In modern contexts where lifestyle diseases like diabetes and prediabetes are prevalent, this connection takes on urgent significance. By stimulating circulation here, the body's ability to regulate glucose is believed to improve, helping balance energy production and prevent metabolic disorders. Whether viewed through the lens of qi flow or biochemical function, the message is consistent. The groin is a lever for systemic health. Just as the groin acts as a battery, the back of the knees functions as a release valve. Behind this joint lies a point recognized in acupuncture as one of the most powerful switches for the posterior chain of the body. Known as bladder 40, it governs the flow of energy and blood along the spine and legs. Chronic tension often collects here, especially from hours of sitting that shorten hamstrings and compress circulation. When left unchecked, this tension radiates upward, pulling on the pelvis and overloading the lower back. The result is the all-too-common complaint of lumbar pain. Gentle tapping on the crease behind the knees loosens this chain of tightness, creating a ripple effect that climbs the spine. Practitioners often describe the sensation as releasing a hidden knot, a sudden lightness in posture, as though invisible weights have been lifted. In addition to musculoskeletal relief, the practice aids venous return. Blood must travel upward against gravity from the feet to the heart, and the calves are often called the second heart for their role in this pump. When the back of the knees is stiff, circulation slows, leading to swelling, heaviness, or varicose veins. Stimulating this site unclogs the passage, facilitating smoother flow and restoring vitality to the legs. The symbolism of the knees as stabilizers cannot be overstated. They bear the burden of standing, walking, and grounding the body against the earth. To cleanse these portals is to reaffirm connection with stability and strength. The act is not only therapeutic but existential. By lightening the knees, one aligns posture, steadies gait, and reconnects with the ground beneath. Practitioners often emerge from the exercise standing taller, moving with more balance, their body reoriented as though recalibrated by an inner compass. Together, the groin and the knees form a powerful polarity, one channeling stored energy upward, the other allowing stagnant energy to be released downward. This dual action mirrors the balance of intake and outflow, charge and discharge. Just as a river must have both source and mouth, the body thrives when energy is both replenished and expressed. The groin fills the reservoir, the knees open the dam. When practiced sequentially, they create a circuit that nourishes and cleanses in equal measure. The psychological implications are profound. Fatigue, low libido, and digestive issues often erode confidence and vitality, while chronic back pain or swollen legs weigh down mood and spirit. By engaging these portals, one not only alleviates symptoms but restores a sense of agency. The body is no longer seen as betraying or breaking down, but as responsive and capable of renewal. This reframing shifts identity from patient to participant, from victim of imbalance to steward of energy. Modern science provides plausible mechanisms for these effects: increased circulation, lymphatic stimulation, endorphin release, nervous system recalibration. Yet the enduring power of the practice lies in its integration of physiology with imagination. To feel the groin as a faucet and the knees as a valve is to experience the body as a living system of flow. The metaphors anchor sensation, guiding attention so that the practitioner perceives not only physical changes, but energetic ones. In this way, simple tapping becomes layered: mechanical, neurological, symbolic, and spiritual. What emerges from this stage of practice is not merely relief from discomfort, but a renewed sense of rootedness and strength. The groin charges the body like a hidden battery, and the knees ground it like stable pillars. The individual rises from the session with both energy and balance restored, prepared to carry life's weight with greater ease. Once the individual portals have been explored in isolation, the true value of the method emerges in the act of uniting them into a single seamless sequence. The logic is simple. Energy must flow top to bottom, just as water follows gravity and rivers descend from mountain springs to valleys below. Beginning at the armpits, moving down through the elbows, then into the groin, and finally releasing at the knees, the practitioner completes a circuit that touches every critical channel. Each location receives between 36 and 81 taps, paired with slow breathing. Total, the entire routine takes less than 2 minutes. The brevity is important. It removes excuses. Anyone can carve out 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes in the evening. The practice is designed not as an occasional ritual, but as daily hygiene, a cleansing as ordinary and essential as brushing teeth or washing hands, performed upon waking. The sequence serves as a reset after the night's stillness. During sleep, circulation slows, lymphatic drainage is reduced, and subtle tensions accumulate in joints and muscles. By stimulating the 8 portals, the body is invited to shed stagnation, enlivening breath and blood before the day begins. The morning session becomes a form of ignition, starting the inner engine with clarity and lightness. In the evening, the same sequence acts as release. It allows stress, accumulated toxins, and muscular tightness to drain away, preparing the body for rest. Here, the routine functions as closure, a gentle decompression that signals the nervous system to shift into restorative mode. In both cases, the sequence provides transition, from sleep to wakefulness, from activity to rest. The cumulative benefits are presented not in grandiose terms but in gradual transformation. Over time, the body grows more supple, the mind steadier, sleep deeper. These improvements reflect consistency rather than miracle. The wisdom lies in repetition, in turning the act into habit. Just as dental health is preserved by daily brushing rather than a single heroic cleaning, energetic health is maintained by steady tapping rather than sporadic intervention. In this perspective, the true secret of the ancients was not hidden formulas, but disciplined continuity. What endures is not mystery but practice. This framing carries psychological power. Instead of positioning the individual as a passive patient who waits for external cures, the sequence makes the person an active participant in their own balance. Each tap becomes an act of self-determination, each breath a reminder of autonomy. The 8 portals do not grant new abilities, but awaken what already lies dormant within. The promise is not that of receiving something foreign, but of reclaiming what has always belonged to the body, its innate capacity to regulate and heal. The structure of the sequence reflects archetypal order. Top to bottom echoes the flow of gravity, the descent of rivers, the cycle of rainfall to ocean. In many traditions, purification begins with the head and ends with the feet, symbolizing the movement from heaven toward earth. This 2-minute practice reenacts that universal pattern in miniature. Each strike of the hand is both literal stimulation and symbolic alignment with larger forces. What distinguishes the routine is its accessibility. No esoteric postures, no incantations, no equipment. Only hands, breath, and attention. Yet simplicity should not be mistaken for weakness. Precisely because it is simple, the practice can be sustained. Grand rituals may inspire awe, but often collapse under their own weight. Daily acts that require little time and effort endure. The ancients understood this. The most profound rituals are often the most ordinary. The transformation described is therefore not sudden revelation, but slow accretion. Each day of practice builds on the last until the tapping sequence becomes second nature. The body begins to expect it, to respond more quickly, to enter balance almost reflexively. At that point, the practice ceases to feel like an exercise and becomes woven into life's fabric. It is not something one does. It is simply part of being. This is the final stage of mastery, when discipline turns into identity. From a modern perspective, the mechanism is plausible. The repeated percussion stimulates peripheral nerves, increases microcirculation, encourages lymphatic drainage, and engages parasympathetic dominance. Deep breathing further enhances vagal tone, lowering heart rate and reducing stress hormones. These are measurable physiological effects. Yet beyond measurement lies meaning. To imagine the armpit opening the heart, the elbow calming the mind, the groin charging the battery, the knee releasing the weight. This symbolic layering magnifies experience. The body not only functions better, it feels more coherent, more purposeful. The larger message is one of empowerment. Health is no longer a commodity to be purchased, but a practice to be cultivated. The body is not a fragile mechanism doomed to break down, but a responsive garden that flourishes when tended. By investing 2 minutes morning and night, one participates in a lineage of wisdom that stretches across cultures and millennia. The Egyptian god who recorded secrets on papyrus, the Chinese sages who mapped meridians, the healers who passed rituals through caravans, all whisper the same truth: the power to renew lies within. In the end, the practice is not about extraordinary feats, but about remembering. To remember that breath is life, that balance is health, that rhythm restores harmony. To remember that the body listens when spoken to through touch and intention. And most importantly, to remember that transformation does not require what is outside, but what is already inside. The 8 portals are not doors to some external treasure. They are mirrors pointing inward, guiding each practitioner back to their own inexhaustible source.